Hey guys, musicninjamat here. This is the first video of 2019. It's taken me a while to get this out because I've been really busy with work and seeing people, and I managed to catch the lurgy, so I was really ill for ages. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at a new comic series. Normally I just look at the first issue of a new series, but this was 5 issues long and it came out over like 3 weeks, so the whole thing's finished. And I'm going to be looking at The Defenders, The Best Defense. So there were like 5 one-shots for this basically, because you had Hulk, Silver Surfer, Doctor Strange and Namor, and those books could be read in any order, and then it all finished in a big team-up Defenders book. So working on this book, writing it, we had Al Ewing, Chip Zdarsky, Jason Latour and Jerry Dugan, and then on pencils we had Simone DeMeo, Carlos Magno, Greg Smallwood, Jason Latour and Joe Bennett. So first up we've got the Immortal Hulk's book. And basically what happens in this book is that Bruce is in this like really quiet town. It's being held hostage by this old man who has somehow got his hands on the Eye of Agamotto, and Bruce actually finds Doctor Strange's dead body. Bruce is able to get the eye back, uses that to sort of unleash the Hulk, and then he's met by a much older Doctor Strange. I really liked this book. It's just a standout Hulk book. Al Ewing just really understands both characters of Hulk and Bruce. Like in this, Hulk is menacing yet also quite humorous, and Banner comes across as being very desperate yet intelligent, and he's also quite a badass in this book. He has some pretty brutal fights. And the art is stunning. It's gritty and it's realistic, and they even weave in some older panels from old Hulk comic books, which I thought was a nice touch. So there's an example of some of the art from the Hulk book. So next up we have Namor's book. So in Namor's book we see him struggle as he wants allies so that he can go to war with the surface. But a lot of Atlantis feels like he doesn't need allies. He travels to Vodan, and it's quite cool because as he's travelling and struggling through, we get to see flashes from his time in World War II. Namor gets to Vodan and he's told he needs to prove his worth by slaying this monster, which of course he does, and the king of Vodan actually turns on Namor. They have this big fight and Namor's like, I'll shove him to the surface and he won't be able to survive. But as they come up to the surface, they're actually in space, and when he looks back, Vodan is actually this big water planet, and it becomes apparent that Namor had gone through a portal while he was travelling. So as he's kind of stranded out in space, the Silver Surfer's board then turns up to save him. I liked the writing in this because normally I'm not a huge fan of Namor, or Namor, I say Namor. But in this he was a complex character and the story was actually really interesting, and naturally I just thought it was really cool when Surfer's board turned up. And with the art, it's incredibly detailed and I just really like the underwater backgrounds. So yeah, here's a little example of the art. So next up we've got Doctor Strange's book. So in this book we see Strange in the future, and we see that Earth has been decimated by some sort of collision, and this has allowed Dormammu to take over. So Strange is fighting through Dormammu's monsters, and we see he pulls out his own eye to use the Eye of Agamotto. We see the cost of magic, and we get this really cool battle because Strange comes face to face with Dormammu, and Dormammu strikes him with magic to kill him. And then we see Dormammu's secret weapon is the head of the Hulk, and he says, but he doesn't eat gamma anymore, he eats magic, and Hulk blasts that magic back out, which shoots Strange up. And then we see Strange also has a shard of the Silver Surfer's board, and he's able to use this to sort of travel through time and space in his astral form, sending himself back to the past where he can warn Hulk. I thought it was a really well written, fun story. It was cool seeing an older Doctor Strange and seeing the toll it's taken on him to protect the Earth. And I really like how his plan involved him playing the long game. We see old artifacts and allies from the past. Even like the cloak of levitation is like a rag, so he even makes a joke about it being like a scarf at this point. The art's really quite good as well because it's very simple and it's not very colourful at all, but that matches the tone of what's going on in the future and just how bleak it is. But then as he's travelling in his astral form, we get to see all the bright, crazy art that we're used to from a classic Doctor Strange book. So here's an example of the in the future art, and then there's him travelling in his astral form. So finally we've got the Silver Surfer's book before the Defenders ending. So in this story we see Galactus is stood over this planet and everybody is freaking out trying to get off the planet. So they are giving offerings to this guy called Scabtongue, who seems to be the only one with a ship that can get them off planet. Silver Surfer turns up and takes out Scabtongue, and we learn about this cosmic train that goes through the universe, and it uses the universe and planets as fuel, and it just turns planets into wastelands. And that's what's happened to this planet, and it's just full of scavengers at this point. And Galactus basically said nobody on this planet is worth saving, so I'm gonna eat it. And we see Silver Surfer is looking for people who are worth saving, and he ends up helping this one kid out who looks like it's Yondu's kid. But then Silver Surfer's board ends up leaving him. Of course, it's gone to save Namor. This book's writing I didn't like. I found it quite all over the place and a little bit unclear at times. I found the art okay though. It kind of reminded me of like Kick-Ass kind of art, that kind of gritty style. So here's an example of the art there. So as a recap of how the books crossed over, you've got Doctor Strange going back in time and he contacts the Hulk, and obviously Hulk has found Doctor Strange's body and the Eye of Agamotto. While on a mission learning about this cosmic train, Silver Surfer's board ends up leaving him and it goes to save Namor, who has ended up stuck in space. And throughout all the books, one of the connecting things is there's this character dressed as a ghost who is just going around murdering people. So then we get the Defenders team up book to end this series, and it's got the Stanley tribute banner up there. So the cosmic train is the big threat here in this book, and we find out there's actually a conductor who fuels planets into it, and this conductor's being controlled by Nebulon. So Nebulon is our big bad guy. So naturally the plan is to set the train on course so that Earth will be one of the planets destroyed. Surfer goes to face Nebulon by himself, which obviously doesn't end well for him, and we see Doctor Strange is explaining that with this cosmic train you can't just destroy the train because radiation will flow out and Earth will die anyway eventually. Namor and Silver Surfer's board turn up to give the Surfer a hand. We get to see hell, or the fact that there are different hells and they all trade with each other, and we see some allies of Nebulon, and they're basically saying they owe Mephisto some souls, but it doesn't matter because themselves and Nebulon, their debt will be paid as soon as Earth is destroyed. And then Hulk arrives in this hell and just starts smashing stuff, and Strange is like, I'm changing the narrative, I need things to be different this time. Hulk then arrives at Nebulon with Strange, so all four Defenders are there, and because Hulk's just smashing away, this causes a distraction. This means that Strange is able to slip into the conductor's mind, not long enough to sort of take it over completely, but just long enough to sort of give his mind a bit of a nudge, which causes him to fling the planet Vodon, so instead of it being fuel, it ends up getting flung into space. So Namor and the Surfer go racing after that so that it doesn't just freeze in the depths of space. And with that, they just believe that Surfer will be able to use his power cosmic to make sure that this planet has a sun again. And Namor says, take some of my life force and use that to help you fuel your powers. And the Queen of Vodan, she's pretty pissed off by this, and she just sacrifices herself completely to save the planet out of anger towards Namor. but with the one little change that has happened, the train course changes as well, which means that it misses Earth completely, and Mephisto arrives to take away Nebulon as Nebulon couldn't pay his debt. There's a really cool moment as well for me being a Hulk fan because of the fact that Doctor Strange says to Mephisto, like, what's going on with Hulk? Because he's having problems with, like, hell at the moment. And Mephisto's like, whoa, whatever is inside Hulk, even I wouldn't deal with that. Everyone sort of returns to what they were doing. So Surfer goes back to Galactus, and Hulk just goes back to Earth. Namor goes back to Atlantis, and the old Future Strange is stuck in Mephisto's hell, but it kind of ends with him saying, oh, don't worry, I've got a plan. Now, I thought this book was solid. I thought all the characters were well written. It was an interesting plot without being too overly complicated. You've got Doctor Strange who narrates the book, which makes sense because obviously he's lived through it. It's his story that he's telling of how he's changing the future. And this book was just filled with great team moments. And it was comic book silly. It was just awesome and just such a good time to read it. I found the art to just be really solid and really striking. So here's an example of that. The big unanswered thing is, who is the ghost character that was popping up in each book? Because I thought this might spin out into a Defenders book, but by the end of it, it's just basically saying catch all these guys in these 4 individual titles. So I'm wondering, what is their plan for the future? Like, I'm currently not reading any team books. There's just none that I've really enjoyed. However, with this team and this creative team behind it, I would definitely pick a book up like this. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe as it really helps the channel out. Check out all the links in the description down below. Check out the entire channel, especially the playlists, and I will see all of you in the next one.